Good morning, everybody. Jim Feist and Victor King. Victor, how's the weather down there? We're raining out here. It's like rain every day because you had cold weather. We have cold weather. Now we got the rain. We never get rain.
Right, I heard that a couple days in a row, pretty bad rain there. Down here we're getting close to the Thanksgiving holiday, and that's kind of the unofficial cutoff point in regards to hurricanes in the Sunshine State. So the closer we get to Thanksgiving, with no real bad stuff going on down here, the nicer it is that we put, pretty much dodged a 2025 with no major hurricanes in the Sunshine State, and that's always a good thing, Jim.
Oh man, I absolutely agree. I know what those hurricanes are like. I don't miss them. I had a couple in my life, and I definitely don't like them. Don't want them. Don't want to see them again in my life. And it's tough. They're tough.
But
Hurricanes are one thing, and then the tornadoes, the Midwest and everything gets. They're scary as hell.
right, and of course, over there in the Far East, they call them tsunamis or typhoons and things like that. But you know what, Jim? Talking about tsunamis, that would be like the Houston Texans defense, huh? Pretty much a swarming tsunami type defense. Particularly if we're talking about last night's game, the Thursday night affair. For those folks that had Houston winning on the money line, congratulations! Outstanding win for them over the Buffalo Bills. Now I was on the under last night. I know you were on the under last night. The line closed at like 44 and a half. And you saw what the score was at halftime, right? 20-16, 36 points. In fact, I sent out a tweet. Mathematically, we have a 3% chance of winning. There's a 97% chance that the over is going to win in this game. And that's not a great way to start the new week in the NFL. Lo and behold, 2 field goals in the second half, Jim. I cannot believe that we both cashed under winners in that game. I don't know how we did it. I'm thankful. Lady Luck, she kind of owed us one anyway, because the first thing that popped into my mind was this is the first game of the NFL season replaying itself. Do you remember that Thursday night game way back in week one, Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia
Yes,
Eagles?
you
We were
should have
both
gone
on
over
the
and it never
over,
absolutely
and
lost that
there was
game.
a
Right,
41-point first half and a 3-point second half. So
exactly.
Lady Luck kind of owed us one for that opening week devastating loss, and she kind of paid us back again last night. So for those of you who were on the over, I feel your pain definitely, but I love the fact that we somehow cashed with the under last night.
I thought I was gonna get a split because I had Houston +6 and I had the under, and I didn't think I had a prayer. But then again, you're right, because in the beginning of the season, I had that Dallas Philadelphia game over and 3 points in the second half. That was unbelievable. So it does it thank God it balances out.
It certainly does. Now, my very first reaction, after we cashed our winnings on the under last night, and again, congratulations on you also with the Houston side. But I took a look at the odds. That's a big, big win for the Texans. I took a look at the current Houston odds to win their division, Jim, and I couldn't pass them up. With a 6-5 record now, 3 wins in a row, Houston is still an 8-1 underdog to win their division, AFC South. Now I know we're talking about the surprise team in the NFL, the Indianapolis Colts, 8-2 on the season, and Houston 6-5, 2.5 games behind. I couldn't pass up the odds on Houston to win the division still at 8-1 odds. So I did jump on it, and I kind of parlayed it together with another team who's currently not in first, who has underdog priced money to finish in first. And that team is the Detroit Lions, currently at plus 135 now to win their NFC North division. So my gut reaction, my knee-jerk move after last night's big win against Houston was to play a parlay of Houston to win their division 8-1 odds and Detroit to win their division at 2.5 at What did I say here? Detroit at plus 135, and that parlay pays 8-1 odds overall. I'm sorry, I'm wrong on that, Jim. You got an 8-1 underdog. You got a plus 135. That pays 21-1 odds. If Houston somehow comes back to win the division, and Detroit does, that pays 21-1. Now, don't forget, Houston started the season 0-3. They've won 3 in a row. They've yet to play the Colts this year. They got 2 games coming up against the Colts. And finally, the Colts are on the road against the Chiefs this week. A lot of sharp money is actually on Kansas City to not just win that game, but cover the 3.5 points. I think Houston has a legit shot now to win that division after last night's win.
How do you feel if Stroud doesn't come back? Do you feel they have a legit shot to get there?
Yes, because I believe he will be back. It's not a significant injury. We're talking about a concussion to C.J. Stroud. It's a concussion injury. I don't want to underestimate a concussion injury, but it's not like a broken fibula or an Achilles heel injury
Right,
or
right.
something in the ankle. This is something that he's going to come back from sooner or later. Hopefully, it's in next week's game when Houston does take on the Colts on the road in Indianapolis.
This is going to be interesting. This week against Kansas City, the Colts are going to have to show up. They that's a very interesting game to look at to begin with. Is Kansas City done, or are they going to bounce back and save their season? Because if you look at that Kansas City situation, they could already be eliminated from the playoffs because the team they're fighting for that last position happens to be Jacksonville, and Jacksonville beat them.
Beat the
And that's
Chiefs on Monday night,
yes,
right?
and that is a devastating situation. Should they lose and Jacksonville win, they're in big trouble.
Right. The Chiefs are already technically outside looking in. So this is their make or break game, Kansas City against Indianapolis. Now, from a total standpoint, we may as well run through what happened last week in the NFL. Unders came back pretty strong last week in week 11. Of course, it started with that division under in the Thursday night game between the Jets and the Patriots. And in fact, what you are seeing is that division games are getting lower and lower scoring the further we get into the season. So let me see here. Same division games ended up going 3-6 over under last week. Last week's overall record: 6 overs, 9 unders, 43.9 points per game. That was the average game last week in the NFL, and that was the 3rd lowest average scoring week of the season. Basically, there was only, 2 shootouts last week, Tampa, Buffalo, San Francisco, Arizona, if you will, while a whopping 9 games out of 14 had 41 or less combined points. So things are coming back down to the earth in terms of overall over-unders now for the season. We're at 85 overs, 78 unders, 1 tie, and the average combined points we're at for the season is at 46.4. Still slightly higher than last year's overall numbers, which were 45.8. But again, it was a low-scoring week last week, 6 overs, 9 unders, only slightly less than 44 points per game in the NFL. What are we seeing this week? The average line is somewhere around 45.3, and there is, as you just alluded to, a handful of games with high totals this week. We're talking Giants, Lions, Patriots, Bengals, Colts, Chiefs, the game you just mentioned. Even Jaguars, Cardinals at 47.5. I would consider that a high line in addition to the Philadelphia-Dallas game, although the fact that the line has come down 2 to 3 points in the Dallas game is interesting. Opened up somewhere around 50, down to 47.5. A rare thing to see, a Dallas game in which the over-under line is actually going down rather than up,
Well, the possibility there is, Philadelphia's offensive line has taken a hit with injuries, and Dallas has added some defensive players. in in the last couple of weeks, and their defense looks better than it has been. So those metrics are changing. One thing I will mention: last week we had a ton of teams that had high wind situations. This week we have no wind. I mean, it's
Right.
ridiculous. Last week, like every game had wind. Um,
Yeah,
this
you're
week
right.
we have no wind.
Right. It looks like weather will not play a significant factor in any game this week. That's always good to see. But you're right. Chicago, excuse me, last week, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, the high winds in Pittsburgh game went under the total. Um, Green Bay, New York Giants, high winds there in the Meadowlands. The interesting part was that the windiest game may have been the Tampa Bay Buffalo game, the game that turned out to be the highest scoring game of the week at 76 points.
It didn't bother them.
No, not at all. Well, hey, wind doesn't bother you when you are running the ball well, and both teams were running all over the place in that game. Tampa 202 rushing yards on the road in that game. That's where they got their yardage, and the fact that they got their rushing yards without number one guy Bucky Irving in the lineup says a lot about their depth with Sean Tucker as the number two running back, and of course I forget who the other guy is, but that Tampa team has got some good depth when it comes to running backs. That's for sure.
That is true. And of course, Superman put his cape on last week, and Josh Allen had 6 touchdowns, three in the air and 3 on the ground, which was an incredible. But last night he got sacked 8 times by Houston.
This Buffalo team is a tough team to figure out. They take a step forward, they take 2 steps back, and that's what happened to them last night. Particularly that final ugly interception of the game that he threw on his back foot while he had a wide receiver open deep in the end zone as well. I'm thankful from an under the total standpoint, but he's a tough guy to figure out, Josh Allen. Well, the entire Buffalo Bills team is as well. They can't stop the run. They got a good pass defense, but they cannot stop the run. They have injuries galore. They have no depth at the wide receiver position. They basically have Josh Allen and a defensive pass defense. That's about it.
Well, and they haven't played exceptionally well on the road. I mean, Miami handled them pretty well a couple of weeks ago, and Miami, by no stretch of the imagination, is a very good team. Houston is a very good defense, and you can't say that about Miami. So they do like playing at Buffalo, in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Of course, a lot of teams like playing at home. You know, there's a couple teams that play even better on the road than they do at home, like Seattle. They seem to play really well on the road. But
defense travels well, Jim. In fact, Houston, Denver Broncos, Seattle Seahawks. These are 3 can beat anyone on any given week type defenses. I do not want to see any one of these 3 teams in the postseason because defense travels well, and those are 3 of the best.
So what game sticks out of here? What do you want to talk about here? Which one of these games? I mean, Dallas and Philly is a key major game because Dallas has a chance to make the playoffs if they can win this game. And then they have a couple soft spots coming up. And you're not going to get much competition from Washington and the Giants in that division, but there's a lot of competition for the 7 spots in the playoffs, and they have the same thing in the AFC as well.
Right now, I don't know if at 4-5-1, I don't know if the Cowboys' season is done yet or not. They don't think so, but we'll say this: this 2-week stretch coming up is a season-defining stretch for the Cowboys. Both at home, good for them. This week hosting the Eagles. Next week on Thanksgiving, they'll be hosting the Kansas City Chiefs in the late afternoon game. So, hey, if Dallas could come away with a couple of surprise wins, then they're right back in this thing.
Well, nobody's going to quit. These players play for their jobs. You know, I know that. And maybe the motivation changes a little bit. But if Kansas City loses and Dallas wins, then Kansas City really has nothing. You could argue this point, but they almost have nothing to play for playoff-wise next week. And Dallas's offense is has been pretty unstoppable, except when they went to Denver.
Mm-hmm. Uh, Definitely. If I can finish the wrapping touches on the last night's game, one more thing I want to mention about Houston. You know, I don't know about the all red uniforms that you saw, red helmet, red jersey, red shoes, red pants. That's a little difficult on the eyes. But I'll say this, I love those red shiny helmets that they break out on occasion in Houston, that chrome kind of shiny helmet. One thing I do like about that red uniform is that red helmet is absolutely killer. I absolutely love watching a college football game in which on occasion you'll see a team break out the shiny chrome helmets, and I'll usually tweet out some sort of shiny helmet alert. But I don't know about the all red ensemble for Houston, but I sure love those red shiny helmets.
Very interesting.
Now, hey, here's an over I like in the early games, and it's the Jets and the Ravens. If this line were on the high side, 48 points or higher, I would probably be passing on it. But what are we at? We're right at 44 to 44 and a half in this game.
Correct.
The Jets have already gone 3-0 to the over against the AFC North this season. They played the Browns, they played the Bengals, they played the Steelers. All three have gone over, and in fact, they've gone a perfect 6-0 to the over in their last 6 games against its division. 63.3 combined points per game. Jets playing against AFC North opponents. Try and figure that out. I don't know. Hey, with a new starter that they just announced at the quarterback position, that's veteran Tyrod Taylor. I mean, this offense, it has to be more productive than the numbers with Justin Fields. They have to be, right?
Well, I'm not going to say that Tyrod Taylor is Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, but he is head and shoulders above Justin Fields. I mean,
this, this goes This goes back
definitely
to an article I wrote about 6 weeks ago about some of the veteran quarterbacks in the NFL who are running more efficient offenses than their younger counterparts. We mentioned it in Arizona with Jacoby Brissett against Kyler Murray. And the case is the same here, too. Tyler Taylor is going to be a more efficient, productive quarterback than Justin Fields is. That is for sure. The surprising thing is that again, at this game, we're in New York. We may go the other way, but Jet road games, for some strange reason, have actually been very, very high scoring. In the last 2 seasons now, that's 2024 and this current 2025 season, Jet Sunday road games have averaged 54.8 combined points per game. And that ties in very well with Baltimore playing at home. Baltimore, same conference home games, have averaged 52.7 combined points per games in the last 2 seasons, and they are finally now healthy at offense. That would be Baltimore. The the clincher for me is the big point spread. Baltimore is one of the bigger favorites on the entire Week 12 schedule, where there's somewhere 13 and a half, 14
right.
points. Right up there with the Lions, who are in that range as well. But with that said, excuse me, Jim, my first database query in regards to this game looks at high line games, and we've got a 9-1 to the over in the last 4 seasons. Non-division home favorites of greater than 10 points. That's the Ravens. When facing any AFC conference opponent, that's the Jets. 90% to the over the last 4 seasons. Obviously, we're going to need to get 17, maybe 20 points out of the Jets. I think with Taylor, we're going to be able to get that 20 points. We'll mention Taylor in a minute in some of our props section. But Baltimore, I mean, they're good for 27 to 34 points in this game. So yeah, you can say 31 to 17, the game goes over the total. 27 to 20, the game goes over the total. Either way, we're utilizing the line here of 44 and a half. If you can find a 44, I might even buy it down to 44 because 44 is a key number in the NFL.
It
Many
is.
many combinations can lead to a game falling right on top of 44 points, particularly a game like 24-20. That's 44 points. So if you can, buy it down to 44.0, bet it over. Either way, we're playing Jets, Ravens over the total in Baltimore. Let's hope that Tyrod Taylor can do some damage for us. And again, Baltimore is good for 30 to 31 points at home over the last two seasons. That's pretty much a done deal. So I think we've got some good value at that current line in the mid 40s.
Yeah, and you got to be a little careful. There's a lot of 44 and a half and over juice. So go out there and get it now so you can buy it down to 44 because Victor's right. Uh, you get that 44 is a key number that you want to have. You have to
Yep.
pay, you don't want to get it to 45 and buy it down. It's going to be expensive.
Yes, definitely. I ended up playing it. I actually took it all the way down to 43 and a half, and I bet it over myself. But I think that's a strong total. We've got another one in this week's newsletter, our totals tip sheet newsletter, that I'm going to keep on the down low because we're actually using that as our 4-star over of the week. But you definitely want to check out this week's issue at playbook.com. We mentioned the fact that how the hell was Carolina one of the top 2 offenses last week in the NFL with 486 yards to Carolina Panthers?
How
Figure
does that
that
happen?
out. I have no idea how they did that, and they did that against an Atlanta team that has one of the best pass defenses in the NFL.
They've,
Um,
they've
again,
handled
20
Atlanta
yards.
twice this year.
That's twice, right? 30-0, and then of course last week's come from behind win for Carolina as well. But there is a Tuco team total that I want to talk about, and in this case, it's a first half total in which we're going under the total. And we're going to take a look at the NFC North game between the Packers and the Vikings, an outdoor game between the Packers and the Vikings. You got what you do have in this game is 2 hot defenses, both ranked in the top 10 this season. You got 2 struggling quarterbacks in McCarthy and Love. You got 2 offenses that are pretty much stuck in neutral these days. Minnesota, 18.2 points per game last 4. Green Bay, only 15.6 points per game last 3. Struggling offenses? Yeah, definitely. What I think it adds up to, or the best way to attack this particular game, is going to be with under the total of 20.5 points in the first half of this game between the Vikings and the Packers. Make sure you get that hook. Make sure you get that 20.5 before you bet the under. To start off with, these teams have similar over-under results when it comes to first half totals in our current 2025 season. Both are at 70% unders or higher. Minnesota in the first half of their games, 3-7 over under. Green Bay even better in the first half of their games this season, 2 overs, 7 unders, 1 tie. Not only that, but this is a visiting Minnesota team. They've seen only 13 and 16 combined first half points in their last 2 games against Baltimore, and of course, as they struggled last week against Chicago. And not only that, but the host Packers are one of only 2 teams in the entire league. Jacksonville's the other that's gone a perfect 0-5 over under at home in the first half this season. That's the Packers at home in the first half, 0 overs, all 5 games under the total. They're averaging at home only 8.9 on offense in the first half and allowing an NFL best 7.1 points per game at home in the first half. Against sharp bettors, you're going to probably want to play this one as soon as possible, just in case the winds pick up on Lambeau Field Sunday. You never know what happens. Maybe a late week weather report comes out, which causes the line to go down even further. But either way, Tuco's played a lot of team totals this year. This is one of his first half unders that he's played this season, but there's a lot of ammo behind it. So Let's consider Minnesota Green Bay under 20.5 points in the first half of their big division game this week.
Well, and I tell you, there's a lot of criticism about J.J. McCarthy not being an NFL quarterback at this point in his life. And I've heard that from some really high level people that analyze from a football standpoint, not from a betting standpoint, that he is just not ready.
I don't know if I would go that far as of yet. I don't blame some of the criticisms up until now, but I think that any young quarterback in the NFL deserves at least 20 to 24 starts before the jury is out on him. So I think the same thing about a guy like Caleb Williams. I'm going to say the same thing about McCarthy. If McCarthy had started every single game last year, we'd be over 24 starts. And I think that some of that criticism might be valid or warranted. But I'm not going to fall into it as of yet. Again, I do think that a quarterback deserves at least a season and a half of starts before we really start attacking him or grinding him down.
I can't argue with that. However, they have a very good roster, an aging roster. And by the time he gets to 24 starts, that roster is not going to be there.
You invested a first round pick on a quarterback. He deserves at least a year and a half's worth of starts. Again, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, you're right. And they won't have to pay him a lot of money for a couple more years, 3 or 4 more years. So they can afford other good players. That's the way the structure is in the NFL. So we'll
Right.
just have to wait and see.
And
But I
and
haven't
we'll hope
seen
for a low
anything.
scoring first half in that game as well.
Yeah, well, that it really adds to it. That's the whole point. I totally agree. He's not somebody that you can look at and he's going to light up the scoreboard.
Not yet, and not consistently. Yes, that's for sure.
Right.
There's
Right.
another game that we added in the tip sheet. We did this last season a couple of times where we throw in a college football over under opinion, and I've yet to do it this season in the totals tip sheet newsletter, and I've gotten a couple of comments from customers asking, "Hey, why don't you throw up an occasional college football over under?" And I don't know if you can see that or not, but I may as well mention it. There's a game in the Big 12 conference that I do like the over in on Saturday night. It's on national TV. If we're looking to add to our Saturday college football totals lineup, I think that we should consider over the total in the Big 12 game between two new Big 12 teams, BYU Cougars and Cincinnati Bearcats. They're playing each other 8 o'clock Eastern in Cincinnati on Saturday night. I think it's on Fox Sports. Um, when the opener came out in this game, 53.5 points, I pounced on it. It's up to right now 55 to 55.5. I still think there's some meat on the bone with Cincinnati and BYU over the total. Neither one of these defenses have much of a definitive answer for their respective opponents' ground games, that's for sure. Both teams are excellent in creating quality drives on offense to set up scoring position. It looks like Cincinnati's top two playmakers will be back for this particular game. And based on the point spread and the over-under line, the implied score is BYU 29, Cincinnati like 26 and a half. And according to my database simulations, that's about 7 to 8 points too low. Again, I mentioned it's a very, very big game in the Big 12 conference for both teams, particularly for BYU. I say that because they are still ranked. They're in the top 25. They're the number 2 team in the Big 12 conference. They've got a shot to play for the Big 12 title, and the stakes could not be any higher for BYU traveling east in this particular game. If they win, they very, very likely make it to the Big 12 championship game. That is providing they beat a really bad Central Florida team next week on Black Friday. But BYU had one of their best wins of the season last week We were on BYU TCU over in that game and cashed, and we're riding them again this particular week. BYU beat the Horned Frogs 44-13. Very good passing last week. Um, they scored points in every quarter. It was a great offensive showing after that debacle against Texas Tech in the previous week when they were held to less than 10 points. And we expected them at home to come back strong off that loss. And they did. On the flip side, Cincinnati, they're also on a solid overrun as well. 6-3 to the over in their last 9 games. Um, November 1st, a devastating loss to Utah. Since then, Cincinnati has looked pretty good. They did not win last week at home against Arizona, 30-24. The defense gave up 480 yards in that loss. It was a shocking home favorite loss to the Wildcats. So the Bearcats are in their last home game of the season. They have an axe to grind. This is their last home game. I still think there's some value. So if you're looking for a decent Saturday night play in college football, consider the Cougars and the Bearcats over the total. And there you have one of our college football totals as well.
Oh, I know you have something wrapped up in a package. It's like a Christmas gift. And I think you mentioned it's 52-1.
I'm going to hold that for the very, very end. I'm going to throw out
Okay.
one. I'm going to throw out two multiple parlays first, and then we're going
Okay.
to wrap things up with a touchdown 52-1. And no, we did not win last week's. We hit 2 out of 3 guys. I know you and I were exchanging texts. How did that 3-team parlay go? Well, we hit 2 out of 3. Tyler Algier scored for Atlanta. George Kittle scored for San Francisco. We did not get the Jonnu Smith touchdown that we needed for that 23-1 to hit. So, hey, it happens. We hit 2 out of 3. Again, we're not going to cash them all. If we hit one a month or one every 6 weeks or so, then you're definitely ahead of the game. And
Well,
we'll
at
see what
those
happens
odds, for
this week.
sure. This is pretty big odds.
Now, we mentioned the Jets and the Ravens game, and Tyrod Taylor, of course, is taking over for Justin Fields as the Jets' starting quarterback. No, he's not the best passer in the world. I understand that. But he did throw for 197 yards in that close loss to the Buccaneers back on September 21st, I believe. And you got to think that New York is going to at least open up their playbook a little bit more than they had when Justin Fields was the quarterback. And I think that could amount to at least a serviceable or a decent performance from Tyrod Taylor in the box score. He is currently at 187 and a half yards. Our database metrics suggest he throws for 220 to 228 in this game. So that gives us a little bit of value at the current number of 187. Don't sleep on the possibility of Baltimore opening up to a big lead. They're a 2-touchdown favorite in the game, obviously. That could be a good thing for this pick. If New York is down in the second half, Taylor will be regularly asked to throw in the game. So not only that, but I think you should consider adding Tyrod Taylor, since we like the over in the game already, to throw for 2 or more touchdowns in this game.
Oh.
And that you can find at plus 315 odds. He can do that even in a lopsided loss. So it's not like, 2 passing touchdowns means New York has to be competitive in this game. It doesn't. So our first parlay is going to be Taylor over 187 passing yards and Taylor to throw for 2 or more passing TDs at plus 300 to plus 315. And that parlay pays 6-1 odds, called our Jets chasing parlay. They go down big against the Ravens. They come out firing. You may even want to consider Tyrod Taylor over in his passing attempts to add another element to that parlay as well. But that pays 6-1. It's interesting. I've got a second parlay here on. It starts in the Cincinnati New England game, in which we have 2 portions of the parlay. Obviously, there's some stuff going on in this Cincinnati game. Joe Burrow pretty much got full practices in on Wednesday, pretty much full practice in on Thursday. I haven't seen what he's done yet today on Friday, but you could kind of tell, and I think maybe you can see this as well from both the spread and the over-under line, that Vegas is thinking that Joe Burrow is going to play in this game against the Patriots this week. We'll see. Either way, I'm good either way. What we do know for sure is that Jamar Chase will not be playing this week. He's serving the 1-game suspension for spitting last week. Jamar Chase is a no play for the Bengals this week. So what does that mean? We load up on our T. Higgins props, right? He's established a fantastic rapport with Joe Flacco or with Joe Burrow, whoever plays in the game. He's had at least 8 targets in 4 of his last 5 games. We're playing him over 5.5 receptions, T. Higgins. The numbers should jump with the Jamar Chase suspension. And we'll take Higgins to, hit the over in a game in which, the Bengals could be chasing points, right? They're a big dog against the Patriots, leading to more throwing volume from the quarterback. So we'll start with T. Higgins over 5.5 receptions. Makes sense, again, with Jamar Chase out of the game. We'll add that and go to the other side and play a hot Stephon Diggs now over 55.5 receiving yards. Actually, that's going up to 58.5 now, Stephon Diggs. Now, in that Thursday night game against the Jets, Stephon Diggs was targeted a lot and often. He caught 9 passes for 105 yards in that Week 11 win against the Jets about 10 days ago. He's got 17 targets over his past 2 games. With the steady volume, the positive matchup against a poor Bengals defense, I think the over hits pretty easily on Stephon Diggs over 58.5 receiving yards. So that's the second element to our parlay. And the third element, I'm going to wait all the way and play a Monday night play, and it's George Kittle over his receiving yards again. He scored for us last week. He's currently at 51.5. And why we are playing Kittle over that total is that the fact that the opponent this week, the Carolina Panthers, they're surrendering a big-time opponent route run average to opposing tight ends this season, the worst number in football, tight ends who face the Carolina Panthers. They've got, it looks like, even extra defensive players who will be out for the Monday night game against San Francisco. Yes, I was considering Christian McCaffrey over the total numbers as far as his receiving props go. But I put an X through that because Matt Jones targeted McCaffrey as a receiver a lot more than Brock Purdy does. Brock Purdy targets George Kittle a lot more than he does McCaffrey. So to me, he's the best option in this particular game. So our second parlay also pays 6-1 odds. You got T. Higgins over 5.5 catches. You got Stephon Diggs over 58.5 receiving yards in the same game. And then wrapping it up with the third leg of the parlay being on Monday night, George Kittle over 51.5 receiving yards. We'll ride him for a second week in a row. If you're looking for another decent tight end, consider Travis Kelce over 52.5 yards. 13 targets for Travis Kelce. He's back on the same page now with Patrick Mahomes. He's topped the 52-yard receiving mark in 6 straight games. I don't know whether the lines makers are not catching on to the fact that he's back again and he's consistent. You can consider Travis Kelce over 52.5 in any parlay or standalone prop play, and that is for sure, Jim. So with that said, you talk about a 52-1. I may as well mention it. It's a 2-team, 2-player touchdown parlay. If both guys score, we do end up hitting at 52-1 odds. And these are guys whose names don't roll off your tongue like the Travis Kelce's and the George Kittles of the world. That is for sure. But this is where the value is in the NFL. We take a look at a team like the Green Bay Packers, and we notice that their number one wide receiver is now out for the year, and that's Tucker Kraft, out for the year, a big part of their offense. And this is the reason that their offense has struggled in the 3 weeks now that he's been out. And of course, we mentioned that in our Packers Vikings under the total in the first half. But we're going with a long shot touchdown. And again, we've seen enough of J.J. McCarthy in the last couple of weeks to avoid all Minnesota skill players this week, particularly against a very good Green Bay defense. We lay off all the Minnesota players, but Josh Wiley is the current Green Bay number one tight end. And he's a name that I'm really, really excited to take a swing with, particularly at this number. Opened 11-1 odds to score a touchdown, and there's currently 9-1 odds at Josh Wiley to score a touchdown. Again, there's no clear answer for Green Bay at tight end with Tucker Kraft out, but it opens the door for Josh Wiley. He wasn't even on the team a month ago. Remember, Tennessee cut him, Josh Wiley, and Green Bay picked him up when Tucker Kraft got injured. He stole snaps from Luke Musgrave last week, and he scored on his only target, Josh Wiley. No Packers tight end had more than one catch. The wide receiver room is all jumbled up in Green Bay. You don't know who's hurt. You don't know who's healthy. Add the uncertainty of Josh Jacobs and his knee, and there may be need for more help at the goal line. Don't forget, Josh Jacobs, when Green Bay gets inside the 10-yard line, he basically automatically always gets the ball or always gets a few carries. But with that knee injury and the uncertainty around it, Green Bay is going to be looking for some sort of red zone protection, and it could very well be this tight end they just picked up 3 weeks ago who scored last week. Josh Wiley, currently 9-1 odds. We're putting him in the parlay, and the second player that we're adding in that parlay, Jim, is, there he is, yeah, another new guy to his new team. And again, these are the most difficult players to handicap. New guy on a new team. It's tough for the lines makers to get a handle on it. It's tough for the bettors to get a handle on unless you really check into the box score. But the guy that we're looking at is a brand new player. And we just talked about the Jets. We like the Jets and the Ravens over in the game. We like the Tyrod Taylor over props. We like Tyrod Taylor to throw 2 or more touchdowns in that game. One of those touchdowns, if not more, I think it goes to their newest number one wide receiver. It's not Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson from Ohio State is out for the year. Don't forget, for the Jets. But the New York passing game should at least function decently this week with Tyrod Taylor under center. And the second guy we're adding is John Mechie. Originally from Alabama, right? Drafted by the Houston Texans, traded to the Philadelphia Eagles, then traded to the New York Jets. This has basically all happened this season. John Mechie. In one of his first games last week for the Jets, he caught all 3 of his targets. Not easy with Justin Fields being your quarterback. And he turned one into a 22-yard touchdown. Currently at plus, let me see here, he opened at plus 475 odds. I got him at plus 425 odds right now. I'm backing him again. So in our touchdown parlay, we're playing 2 guys who are tremendous long shots who both scored last week. In week 11, Mechie led all New York Jet receivers in snap, share, and receiving yards. The one guy that they acquired, Adonai Mitchell, this is a guy who continues to struggle and drops the ball every other pass, and he's still priced 125 points shorter than John Mechie in this game. That I can't figure it out. Of course, with Garrett Wilson's sideline, Mechie may definitely operate as the wide receiver 1 in New York. in what should be a pass-heavy game script, 2-touchdown underdog New York Jets. So again, we mentioned Taylor. Taylor's 2 TDs. Jets Ravens over the total. The second end of our long shot parlay is going to be the newly acquired John Mechie. So there you have it. 2 guys that were on different teams to start the season, that were on different teams as recently as 5 weeks ago. And those 2 guys are Josh Wiley, the current Green Bay tight end, and John Mechie, the current Jet tight end. I'm sorry, Jet wide receiver. If both of these guys score, that would pay 52 to 1 odds. And we'll be happy campers, that's for sure.
Well, I got to give you credit. You did some gold digging. You were digging for gold when you found them. Now
Right,
I
right.
mean, that kind of thing can happen. I mean, you're taking out the new quarterbacks, the people that are hurt. You're looking for the replacements. The odds makers are not pricing them quite right. Yeah, that's where you can take advantage. You're
I'd
right.
much rather consider a guy like that to score than, like a guy like Josh Jacobs, who's even money, or Bryce Hall, who's even money to score. There's no fun in playing those players to score a touchdown. I mean, there's no value whatsoever. You may as
Right.
well play the long shots. And in this case, we got a 2-player long shot. Again, it's worthy of at least $20. I put $50 on it myself. We'll see what happens if we bring that one home.
Well, I hope you get the 2,600 that'll pay. And
Nice.
if you get 100 or 1,000 on it, if you have that kind of money, you're talking about big money.
Right.
It's I wouldn't suggest going too deep into your pocket to do that, but $100, $50, $20, depending on what you normally bet, that's the kind of thing that can change your whole season. No
Right.
question.
But that's what
Yeah.
we got for the week, Jim. Are there any lines or totals that have got you interested in this weekend's action?
Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about Philadelphia and Dallas. The game opened 50 and a half, and we all know that Dallas is a very high scoring team. And yet the line has come down 3 points to 47, 47 and a half. I see some 48 also. But the reason for that might be Philadelphia's offense has been really pathetic. They got some lately, I should say. They got some offensive line injuries. They're not a passing team for sure. They're more of a running team. And Dallas has shored up their defense. They added some defensive players. They look better on defense with those additions. And I'd say that's the reason for the dip. Do you like the dip? Do you think the dip should be more, or would you still lean to the over?
I ended up, based on the line move, I ended up using the under in our Wise Guy contest. But that's because the line in the Wise Guy contest was like 50 and a half. So
Right.
I did play the under at that really, really high line. Obviously, you know what you're getting in Dallas home games. Dallas home games this season have averaged 66.7 combined points per game, extremely high scoring. And that's been in the case in the last 4 seasons. Dallas home games across the board have averaged 52.6. Philadelphia was a much higher scoring road team than the home team last season. Philadelphia road games averaged 48.0, but that number has come down a full touchdown here in 2025. Their road games are averaging only 42.0 because of those fantastic defensive numbers and the fact that you just mentioned they are struggling. Right now, I haven't bet the game at all. Again, I played the under in the Wise Guy contest back on the Monday line. But right now, I have no action in that game, and I don't plan on it right now unless some earth-shattering news come up sometime this weekend. Uh, Dallas at home, you have to almost always consider the over and not the under. That's all I can say about that is Dallas home games have been very, very high scoring, and It's tempting if the line is down in the range of 47, 47 and a half. The
It's
over is
it's
very tempting.
it's interesting that across the board there's been a heavy dog or under move here, which is not it's not dumb money. So they're obviously considering these offensive line problems for Philadelphia and the fact that they're not really a passing team. They're really a running team, and Dallas is going to have to go up against a pretty tough defense here. Now, they didn't have problems scoring points in the first game in Philadelphia until a lightning problem, and then they shut down in the second half. But Dallas's offense is prolific, so it's a very difficult bet to make on the like you said on the under. But it's hard to go against that much money that's come in on the under. So I'm just gonna, from a total standpoint, I'll probably leave it alone because of that. All that money coming under, I would, under normal circumstances, I'd prefer it over because that's who they are. But there's a lot going on here, and
The
actually,
money
one
should
of the
tell us something. Yes, indeed. Dallas's only other great defense they played this season was when they were on the road in Mile High and they played the Denver Broncos. And in that game, they were held to 24 points by Denver. I think Denver scored 44 themselves in that game, 44-24 final score. Dallas did okay against a fabulous Denver defense with 24 or more. But from what you say in regards to the overall tickets and the overall money, that has to tell us something. And Dallas automatic over bettors at home should have a little bit of a yellow caution flag in front of them. I agree. I agree.
Sometimes you have to read the market, and that's what I'm kind of. I put brakes on for this one, and maybe some live betting. I do a lot of that, live betting in the game, and see how the game's being played. If one team breaks out ahead, things might change. They might change their script a little bit. But I thought I'd bring that up because it's an interesting move on a clearly strong over team getting bet under like
Yep.
this. So
Yep.
it's something to bring up and think about.
Yep,
One very sharp football analyst who's not a better analyst, but a analyst of the game of football said that Philadelphia's offense is almost like looking at a ninth grade high school offense. Very vanilla.
Huh.
Very, very vanilla. And he personally said he doesn't understand why. So I'm gonna back off of this because you might have to now listening to that and seeing the underdrop, you might have to say, well, maybe Dallas is the right side of this game. And that's a possibility. It's they're getting points at home against a struggling offense, and you get this person saying about the offense. Maybe Dallas with the revenge, the fact that they're desperate to try to get a playoff spot, and it's possible they're still alive for that. Where Philadelphia doesn't have any danger of missing the playoffs. Nobody's going to catch them in this division. So that's a possibility to consider.
I agree with that. I did actually. I'm not going to even worry about the line. I was about to say if you can grab a 3.5. I'd much rather play Dallas on the money line than grabbing any sort of points. Again, along those lines of this being their season, you could probably get decent money on them to win the game outright over the Eagles.
And you can always do this. If you had $100 better, put $50 on the plus the 3.5 and $50 on the money line.
On the money. I like that. Yeah.
So you got to go both ways. And Victor, this is great material, great information. As always, expect nothing less. Thank you very much. Let's have Lady Luck on our side like we did last night.
Yeah, it was a good start for us last night. So let's go, Lady Luck. Yes.
We'll talk to you soon.
Take care, Jim. Have a great weekend, sir.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.